atomic annihilation, the rebuilding of this great nation of ours may fall to you. That's why we at Vault-Tec have prepared these educational materials for you to better understand the 7 defining attributes that make you special. And now, charisma. What is it made of? To more loyal companions will convincing others to act on your behalf and regularly study your Vault-Tec provided materials to prepare for survival. And to answer the question, do you know what makes you special?
How do you review a game like Fallout 4, a game with such a huge amount of hype behind it, and is the new entry into a series that is both loved and adored by critics and fans alike? It's not an easy task, but we're going to try anyway. Hi, my name is Richard, and I welcome you to my review of Fallout 4 for the PlayStation 4.
There we are.
Fallout 4 comes to us from Bethesda Games Studios, the same guys who made the Elder Scrolls series and also Fallout 3. Now, Fallout 4 is not as much of an RPG as its predecessors, which I'll go into detail more when we hit the gameplay section. But let me just quickly talk about the story. I'm not going to spoil it. But the main quest line is pretty weak. The story kind of involves basically, you're awoken from cryosleep, your spouse has been shot, and your infant son's been kidnapped, and you have to go and find him. It's very predictable, even though there's a great cast of characters. The story's painfully predictable, and the ending just lacks that emotional punch that Fallout 3 had with its ending, and yeah, I just found the main storyline to be very disappointing, and that's a shame because I thought Fallout 3 had a fantastic story, so I'm a bit disappointed with Fallout 4's main plotline. But the side quests are fantastic. The side quest stories are brilliant, and the actual lore of the world is very well done, very well thought out, so it's not all bad, but the actual main quest line it's not very good. So gameplay-wise, as we know, Fallout is an FPS RPG, but it's more of an FPS with RPG elements. You don't get to pick what kind of weapons you can specialize in or what kind of abilities. You're basically given, like with every other Fallout game, you choose your special stats, and that kind of links in with the new perk system. So let's say, for example, you put 10 points into strength. You would then be able to basically pick all the perks in strength. So each special element of the special has its own kind of perk line, and the more you put points into them, the more perks you have access to, but then also you must put the points into the perks then to level them up. It's not a great, I think it's an alright, it's an okay system, but I do prefer the older system where at the start of the game you get to choose kind of what you want to specialize in. So you kind of, with this one though, you kind of are more the jack of all trades, master of none kind of approach. You'll find, unless you really want to go down one path, but I wouldn't recommend it, because there are some really helpful perks on some of the others, like for example the Lone Wanderer perk, which is quite a handy one. So that might be, especially if you don't like bringing companions with you, that's a recommendation to use that one because it gives you some really nice benefits. But one thing I must say, the gun combat is way better than the previous games. It's very responsive, it has a good feel to it, and it's like a good first-person shooter. It really functions that well. It functions so well that I find myself, I'm not using the VAT system as much as I had to in the previous games, because I can now actually properly hit something, because a lot of the time in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, the gun combat was very clunky, it didn't feel very good, and it was kind of a roll of the dice if you'd hit something sometimes, but the gun combat just feels a whole lot better. I'm not saying the gun combat in the previous games was awful, it just wasn't great. They were never really meant to be proper first-person shooters. This feels more like a first-person shooter, in a good way, so I quite like that. Melee combat isn't great, though, but it's a Bethesda game, so the combat, I've always said that with Bethesda games, the melee combat can be very poor, so that's still a continuing trend here, but the exploration elements are still fantastic. There's a great sense of adventure and a great sense of plus just going into random buildings and searching every nook and cranny for bullets, bottle caps, and other kinds of items is fantastic. And with the new workshop mechanic, it's also important to scavenge for stuff like desk fans and telephones, because you can use those items to build things, which is really, really cool. The workshop mechanic is brilliant. You can build up settlements throughout the game. You'll be clearing these areas, and you can then use these areas to start settlements, and you can set up a radio beacon to call people there. And basically, you have to look after the people's needs by building more beds, planting crops for food, and water pumps so that they have clean water. It's really, really cool. It's one of my new favorite things about the game. But the only downside is the actual kind of workshop kind of editor kind of placer is very, very clunky and it's not great to control, because it keeps you in the first person perspective, which is not the greatest if you're trying to like, let's say, for example, you're trying to build you're kind of on the first floor and you're trying to build an upper floor. It's a nightmare, because sometimes you'll keep falling. I had to build another staircase just to actually continue working and continue building the top floor of my house. So it's a little frustrating. I would have preferred if they did like a Sims sort of thing, where you get like an overhead view, because it can be really frustrating to place walls, and trying to get items to snap is a nightmare sometimes, but it's still cool that it's there nonetheless. Plus, you can now modify weapons a lot more. There's deep weapon customization. You can add on scopes, bigger barrels, and all that kind of stuff, which is really, really cool. You can even customize power armor, which is pretty awesome. There's a lot of customization. You can cook. They've added a lot of stuff to this game. It's great. Obviously some of these elements have been made available in previous games through the use of mods, but for us console players, this is great. They've added in a lot of cool stuff. So overall, and VATS has been changed as well. Instead of like in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, where when you went into VATS, the game just kind of it freezed time basically. The time is still going now this time in VATS, but it goes at a very, very slow pace. So you actually have to be quick when you're picking where to shoot, and it really adds this great tension to a fight when you use it. So I like a lot of the changes. Now here we come to the big controversial change. For the first time in the franchise, Fallout 4 has a voiced protagonist. And it has a dialogue system very similar to games like Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect, where basically you're given like 4 choices when you're talking to someone. I don't have anything against it. It's not bad. I actually think the voice acting is really good. I played with the female protagonist. Courtenay Taylor did a great job voicing the female protagonist. She does a fantastic job, but I kind of miss the bigger amount of dialogue options that you got in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Plus, the when you're talking, the options they give you, they're very vague in their description. So like it'll say sarcastic or maybe this. It's not very clear sometimes with some of the choices, which is not that great. And I miss also being able to do things like speech checks. You know, you could convince someone to let you through. Now it's just more a throw of the dice, which I don't like as much. You know, that's why I kind of miss now in this game. I haven't been able to kind of talk my way out of situations, which is how I liked to play in the older games. I've been focusing more on kind of buffing up my character. So while the dialogue system is fine, it doesn't really suit Fallout. I really prefer if they had kept with the old dialogue system. Though there's now a mod available for the PC, which actually kind of shows the options and tells you what what your character is going to say when you pick that option. So that's pretty cool. But I really think they should have just stuck with the old system. But overall, the gameplay is excellent. It's really good. The gun combat is majorly improved, and I really do think it makes the game so much more fun to play. And yeah, it's fun. It's great. The gameplay is top notch, though it does have a few problems, as we have mentioned. What about graphics? The game looks fine. I mean, people complained when it was first announced, oh, it looks ugly. This is running on Bethesda's Creation engine, the same engine they used for Skyrim, and I think the game looks fine. At times when the sun is kind of in the air and the skies are blue, the game looks gorgeous. And I also love the radiation storms where there's like it goes the whole sky goes green and there's lightning and thunder. Oh, it's fantastic. It's really atmospheric. I love it. The graphics are passable. Yes, character models are they're not great and the animations are very simplistic, but I do think the general environments look great and I do think the lighting is excellent. Sound-wise, as I mentioned earlier, the voice acting is really good. Courtney Taylor, since I picked a female protagonist, she does a fantastic job. All the voice actors do a fantastic job. There's not one single bad performance. Sometimes in Bethesda games you can get pretty wonky performances now, but for this one, that's not the case. They did all performers involved did a fantastic job, and yeah, the acting is excellent. And the music. The music is brilliant. The atmospheric music that plays in the background is brilliant. Inonzer once again did a fantastic job. He composed Fallout 3, and once again, the tone, the music that he uses to really kind of bring out the atmosphere is just, oh, I love it. I really want to get the soundtrack now to this game. And the licensed music as well is really good. Just tuning into Diamond City Radio and listening to Maybe by the Ink Spots is great while you're blowing the head off of super mutants. It's moments like that that just makes me love Fallout 4. So yeah. And now the big question: bugs, performance, and bugs. The game performs all right for the most part. It does drop in frame rate every now and again when there's like a lot of NPCs on screen and there's like a lot of laser and fire effects kind of going off. So it does tend to go down. It does go down quite a bit at times, but it stays stable for the most part. In terms of glitches, I've only encountered a few, but nothing game-breaking. I haven't had my save deleted. I haven't encountered a quest I couldn't finish because of a bug. It's mostly just been characters clipping through walls or stuff like that, basically. So nothing major. So maybe I'm just the lucky one. And that's about it. So the main story quest took me at least 15 hours to complete, but that also includes doing some of the side quests to level up. There's a ton of side quests. There's stuff I haven't even discovered yet, and there's areas I haven't even been to yet, so there's plenty to discover in this game. Every time you play it, you'll discover something new. That's what I love about these RPGs. It's like every time you play it, you discover something new, and I love that. I love that a lot. So overall, Fallout 4 is a great game. It's probably not the game that everybody was expecting, but at the same time, it's still a very solid game. It's with decent graphics, fantastic gun combat, a great soundtrack, and just, again, it's a game you can easily lose yourself for hours in, and I really do think it's worth the price that they're asking for it. It retails at about €75. I do think it's worth it because you're getting a whole load of game here for your buck. So I'm going to give Fallout 4 a 9 out of 10. And I recommend this on all formats, whether it be the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, or the PC versions of the game. Pick this game up, you won't regret it. So, thanks for watching, and just remember, ladies and gentlemen, as the old saying goes,